A 150-pound Cane Corso and a 200-pound English Mastiff sat in the same house for 9 days after their owner died. The neighbors heard them howling, but nobody went in. Animal control was called twice. Both times they said the dogs were too large to transport. Then a woman who had barely left her own house in 6 months walked through their door. And what happened 5 months later at 2:41 a.m. is the reason she's still alive today. Rachel Dunn was 33, a military wife whose husband had been deployed overseas for 11 months. She lived outside Fort Worth in a 3-bedroom house built for a family but holding only one person. Wake up, coffee, watch the news, wait, go to bed, repeat. She talked to James twice a week when the connection worked. The rest of the time, the house was silent in the way only empty houses can be. She wasn't falling apart, but by month 11, she had stopped answering calls from friends and started eating dinner standing at the kitchen counter because sitting alone at the dining table felt worse than not sitting at all. Then Margaret next door passed away. Margaret was 71, lived alone, and had 2 dogs most of the street avoided. A jet black Cane Corso named Duke, 150 pounds, with a head the size of a cantaloupe and eyes that could stare through walls, and a fawn English Mastiff named Otis, 200 pounds, wrinkled face, drooping jowls, and a body that took up more space than a love seat. Margaret had been the only person on the block who could handle them. When she was gone, nobody knew what to do. The dogs sat in her house for 9 days. Animal control wouldn't enter once they saw Duke through the window. A rescue group said they'd take Otis but not Duke. Someone suggested putting them down. That's when Rachel heard about it. She grabbed the spare key and opened the door. Duke and Otis were lying side by side in the hallway, not barking, not pacing, just pressed together, like they were all each other had left. The food bowls were empty, the water tipped over. Rachel knelt down. Duke lifted his head and stared with dark, heavy eyes that seemed to ask one question: "Are you staying?" Otis didn't even lift his head. He just exhaled, a long, slow breath that sounded like surrender. She sat on that hallway floor for an hour while 2 giant dogs slowly moved closer. By the time she stood up, Duke's head was on her lap and Otis was pressed against her leg. She called James that night. "I just adopted 2 dogs that weigh more than me combined." James paused. "How big?" "350 together." Another pause. "Get a bigger couch." The first week with chaos on 8 legs, Duke figured out how to open the kitchen door with his paw on day 1. He'd hook it under the door and pull. Rachel put a child lock on it. Duke broke it by day 3. She put a chair against the door. Duke moved the chair. By the end of the week, Rachel accepted that no door in her house was private anymore. Otis had a different skill. He was a remote control hoarder. Every evening, the remote vanished. Rachel would find it 20 minutes later under Otis, who'd be lying on the couch with the remote beneath his chest, watching her search with an expression that said absolutely nothing and everything at the same time. She bought a second remote. He took that one too. But here's what nobody warns you about. Giant dogs don't just fill space, they fill silence. Within 2 weeks, Rachel's house had sounds again. The click of nails on hardwood, the deep breathing from the next room, the thud of a 200-pound Mastiff dropping onto the couch like a controlled demolition. For the first time in 11 months, the house felt occupied. 3 weeks in, Rachel had the worst night since James deployed. A video call dropped halfway through. The connection didn't come back. She sat on the couch staring at a frozen screen, and the silence hit her at all once. Duke appeared first. He sat in front of her and placed one massive paw on her knee, not pushing, just holding. Otis came from the hallway and lay across her feet, all 200 pounds, like a warm anchor. Rachel sat there for 45 minutes with 350 pounds of dog pressed against her, and for the first time in 11 months, she didn't feel like she was waiting anymore. I see you're still watching, but you haven't subscribed yet. That makes me a little sad. Hit subscribe. You'll want to hear what happened on this night. A routine built itself. Every morning at 6:05, Otis would drop his entire body weight onto the floor beside Rachel's bed. The impact shook the nightstand. That was her alarm. Duke would then appear in the doorway holding her right shoe, always the right, never the left. He'd carry it to the kitchen and sit next to his bowl. Shoe for breakfast. Every morning, non-negotiable. Every evening at 5:55, both dogs would sit at the front window, side by side, watching the street. Rachel thought they were looking for Margaret at first. Then she realized they were watching for her, even when she was already inside. They'd been left once. They weren't taking any chances. Then, 5 months after she brought them home, something happened at 2:41 a.m. on a Wednesday in March. Rachel got up for water, missed the top step in the dark, and fell down the stairs. She hit the bottom hard. Her ankle twisted. Her phone was upstairs. She couldn't stand. Duke was at her side in seconds. He didn't bark. He lay down beside her and pressed his body against hers. Otis did something no one had ever taught him. He walked to the front door, stood on his hind legs, and hit the doorbell with his paw. Then again, and again. At 2:41 in the morning, a 200-pound Mastiff rang the doorbell until the neighbor across the street woke up and came over. The neighbor found Rachel on the floor with a broken ankle and a Cane Corso lying beside her like a bodyguard. The paramedics came. The EMT looked at Otis sitting calmly by the door and said, "Did that dog just ring your doorbell?" Rachel nodded 3 times. 350 pounds of dog that sat in a dead woman's house for 9 days. 350 pounds that nobody on the street wanted. The reason Rachel got help that night, instead of lying on that floor until morning. Today, Duke is 6 and Otis is 7. Duke still opens every door in the house, no matter what lock Rachel buys. Otis still hides the remote every single evening. The couch has a permanent dip where 350 pounds sit together every night. James came home 3 months later and found 2 giant dogs sleeping in his spot on the bed. He didn't even try to move them. Rachel doesn't eat standing at the counter anymore. She doesn't dread the silence. She comes home to 350 pounds of loyalty, stolen shoes, hidden remotes, and a love so stubborn it rings the doorbell at 2 a.m. when it needs to. When a dog does something strange, there's a reason. Trust them. They understand more than we think. And if you ever hear about a dog that lost its owner and has nowhere to go, maybe you're the one they've been waiting for. Because Rachel didn't save Duke and Otis. They saved her. Would you have walked into that house and taken them both, or would you have called someone else? Tell me in the comments.